Welcome into Box Office Quarterbacks. My name is Jeffrey Gordon, and this is a very special solo edition of our show. I just finished the series finale of Better Call Saul about 10 minutes ago, so this is a very, very instant reaction of everything I saw in essentially a final Breaking Bad-esque hour and 40-minute movie that AMC just put on, and it was great. I would say. I would say it's not as good as the series finale of Breaking Bad, but it ties up loose ends. It gives you closure on these characters, and I'd say it's a pretty fitting finale to this fictionalized version of Albuquerque that we've gotten in the past 15 years. So, to start right at the beginning of this, you get a nice opening with Mike and Saul in the middle of the desert, a callback to that episode when they were trying to survive. And you get one last goodbye to Mike Armentrout and the character that he was, talking about his regrets and talking about if he had a time machine, he would go all the way back to when he took his first bribe. And I thought that was very interesting. And that ties in later in the story with a very big cameo that I'll get to in a second. But after that, you get the immediate aftermath of what's happening in Nebraska with Gene Takovic, and it's not what you're expecting. If you were expecting maybe an entire episode with Gene on the run, this is not that. So it happens very quickly after he leaves Marion's house. He's hiding in a dumpster, which is a nice callback to earlier in the series when Jimmy jumps into a dumpster to try to put together the missing pieces of the Sandpiper settlement. So there's a lot of callbacks in this episode, by the way. But Gene is caught pretty quickly. He's extradited back to New Mexico, and he's facing down prosecutors. And that's when our first surprise cameo comes in, and that would be the return of Marie Schrader, who's coming back since the first time we saw her at the end of Breaking Bad. And it just shows, the emotion that the emotional fallout of what happened with Hank. We saw a little bit of that at the end of Breaking Bad, but we never really spent that much time with her. And to see her facing one of the people that were, indirectly responsible for her husband's death, I thought was a great callback for the show to bring this character back. I thought she fit into the story in a perfect way. And then you really get to see Jimmy kind of going back to his roots, and the show going back to its roots, becoming a legal drama essentially for the next hour of the show, with some breaks in between. But you get him going through the plea deal with Bill Oakley, who is now his defense attorney. So that's another full circle moment in the show. Bill Oakley is essentially the new Saul Goodman, a less flashy version of Saul Goodman, but they get the plea deal down to 7.5 years. And then Jimmy kind of alludes to, hey, I got something juicier for you. And he's going to spill the beans on Howard Hamlin, even though he didn't know that Kim had already done this a month before. So that puts the wheels in motion to get Kim back into this story. And the break in between is you get another cameo. There are 3 big cameos in this finale, and the big cameo right here is a moment in time with Walter White. And I think if you're going to do cameos in the show that don't feel like fan service, you got to find a moment in time where it kind of pushes this story forward to its close. And they found the perfect moment, which is just after everything went down in Ozymandias in Breaking Bad, when Walt is about to disappear to New Hampshire and when Jimmy is about to disappear to Nebraska. They're waiting in Robert Forster, the disappearer's vacuum business's basement, and they have just this very Breaking Bad moment where Walt is trying to fix the hot water and Jimmy's asking him the same thing that Mike asked him at the beginning of the episode. What would you do if you had a time machine? And Walt talks about how he would have done things differently with Gretchen and Gray Matter and Elliot and that whole situation that could have changed Walt's life back way back when. Uh, you also get to see for one last time uh, just kind of the guy Walt has become, just an angry guy with a short fuse and who always has to be right. So that was a great callback, and it made sense in the scheme of things because Jimmy still couldn't say what his biggest regret was, just like the opening scene with Mike. So that all ties back in at the end, and then we get some drama playing out in the courtroom throughout this whole thing. Jimmy essentially sacrifices himself at the end of the show to save Kim. Kim is back in Albuquerque in the courtroom as the trial of Saul Goodman begins, and it's really cool to see uh, Jimmy, Saul, Gene, whatever you want to call him, representing himself. And that's what we get here. You see just the charm and kind of the sleaze on the outside layer of who this guy is, and he changes the narrative. He flips the script on his plea deal. He spills the beans on how he was the one to help Walter White build his meth empire. He says he didn't see the murders, he didn't see the meth being manufactured or sold, but if it wasn't for him, Walt would have been, his words, arrested within a month or dead. But he kept this going and he did it all for the money. He even said that Kim had no part in Howard Hamlin's death and Kim is scot free and Jimmy McGill will spend the rest of his life in prison. 86 years is what he gets instead of the 7.5 he had talked prosecutors down for. So I think, in the grand scheme of things, this is kind of always where we thought this character would end up. I just didn't see, Jimmy McGill facing a gruesome end. It just wasn't his character for someone that wasn't violent. Was he involved in, things around him that were violent? Yeah, but it's just wasn't who he was. So but before he goes to prison, you get a scene with Chuck McGill one more time, and a surprise appearance by Michael McKean. I didn't actually think we'd see Chuck in the finale, so to see him was a surprise. And it's just like this whole episode is just a callback to just kind of the simpler times of these earlier seasons. You go to Chuck's house, and it's the lights are off. Jimmy's putting the food in the coolers again, and it's just a quiet moment between brothers, and it's a nice wrap up to what this show used to be. Then you get Jimmy on the bus on the way to his maximum security prison in Colorado, and this is the only moment of the episode I didn't really like, where one of the prisoners recognize him as Better Call Saul. And then all the prisoners start chanting, Better Call Saul, Better Call Saul. And it's like the whole bus. So it's fine. I mean, I can look past it. I thought it was a little bit cheesy, but, Jimmy has a big smile on his face nonetheless. Then you see him in his everyday life, in his new life in the prison, where he works in a bakery. It seems like he has respect of the other prisoners in there. And then he gets called into the office one last time. He gets to meet with his former partner in crime, Kim Wexler. She's back. She's posing as his lawyer. This is my favorite part of the episode. It's a callback to season 1, episode 1, when we first met Kim. They share a cigarette on the wall of the interrogation room there, and then they just share a moment, and then you see color in the tip of the cigarette, and I think that signifies, hey, there's color back in Saul's life for the first time in a long time. He finally feels something again. The love of his life is back in the room with him, and they just have a moment talking about how, hey, you got them down to 7.5 years, but hey, maybe if act right, you might get out for uh good behavior. So it's a quiet moment. Kim walks out of the prison. Jimmy is waiting for her at the gate, and then they lock eyes, and then Jimmy does the finger guns, and the series ends. It's kind of heartbreaking, honestly, that these two characters that love each other so much, um, and like that. But I think in the scheme of things, uh, this was as happy of an ending as we were going to get in this show. It's not Breaking Bad where Walt goes out guns blazing, but Jimmy did the right thing. He saved Kim's life and sacrificed himself for the woman he loves at the end of the day. And I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful ending to the show. It it kind of felt like Breaking Bad Endgame to me a little bit with all the cameos, but the cameos made sense in the movie. I mean, in the show was great. Um, I'm just really sad that the universe itself is ending. As a guy who grew up in Albuquerque and has seen all the big landmarks all over town and the Breaking Bad tour buses that are around. It's sad that this universe is coming to an end, but I'm so happy with everything it's done for the city here. It's you know put us on the map. It really has. We we got statues of Jess and Walter downtown now. It's just something that's always going to be a part of this town, and uh, everything that these two shows have brought has meant a lot, and El Camino too. So I would say the legacy of the shows are definitely intact, and people are just going to keep discovering them on streaming. If you have them on DVDs, I mean, it's going to live on. It's going to be kind of like what The Sopranos has become, because people still talk about The Sopranos, and that show ended in like the mid 2000s, and even The Wire and shows like that. So uh, this these two shows, honestly, I think are two of the best shows I've ever seen. Breaking Bad probably still stands a little bit taller than Better Call Saul, but Better Call Saul, it's like 1A and 1B right now. These shows are so good, and I'm really going to miss them. I really am. I know that Vince Gilligan said, hey, I'm going to probably not revisit this world, at least for a while. And I think that's probably the right move. You don't want to, beat a dead horse at the end of the day. And this has been such a successful universe that has been built, that I think, maybe it's time to leave it alone. But yeah, this was a great finale, great ending, a lot of loose ends tied. I want to know what you guys thought, though. Tell us in the comments, tell us on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you follow our podcast. But for Box Office Quarterbacks, I am Jeffrey Gordon. We will be back, me and the rest of the guys, a little bit later this week. Have a good night, guys.